Good day, viewers. Welcome to a new edition of 30 Minutes, the interactive program of Trust Television with me, Manir Dan Ali. Our guest today is someone who has been in the pension industry. He has worked as an executive director in Sigma/Access Pension Fund Administrators, and he is currently the chief executive of the newly formed Pension Bureau of Kaduna State. I'm talking about none other than Malam Ibrahim Balarabe. Malam Ibrahim, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here.
What are your main challenges, like in a newly set up pension office of a state? Because as we know very well, the 36 states of Nigeria are where a lot of the pension problems are.
Just by way of slight correction, the Kaduna State Pension Bureau was established in 2017. It culminated from the collapse of the former Kaduna State Pension Bureau and the local government pension board. So with that, a new bureau was constituted to take care of both the old benefit scheme and the new contributory pension scheme. So the bureau has been around for the past, let's say, 8 years. And basically the challenges are none other than what it has always been under the pension industry. Inability to fully pay pensioners as and when their pension benefits are due, due to lack of sufficient funds from the employer, which is the state government and the local governments. It was further compounded in 2017 when the state government had to retrench en masse primary school teachers and local government employees who lacked the basic qualification to actually serve within the state government.
You are talking about those big numbers of people that were suddenly sacked by the Nasser El-Rufai government.
Exactly. So with the sacking of those people, in line with what the law says, be it under the old scheme or the new one, the minute you tell somebody he's no more working, then his salary stops, but his pension starts.
Which wasn't the case.
And which wasn't the case.
The salary stopped.
Exactly.
And the pension didn't start for many years.
Exactly.
I know someone who, until early this year, that is when his pension started.
Exactly.
And he's one of those affected by that.
In fact,
maybe 7 or whatever number of years.
In fact, we have people that retired as far back as 2017 that are still on queue, awaiting their accrued rights before they can access their pension benefits.
But how fair is that? I mean, somebody who has devoted his whole working career to the employment of the state, and then he gets disappointed. Suddenly, he's earning nothing, and many of those people don't even have a roof over their head. They can't even feed, and they are suddenly thrown into penury.
It's quite a pathetic situation. So I joined the Bureau about 3 months ago, and at assumption of office, I found out the total liability of the state in terms of accrued benefits that are yet to be paid, totaling a little above 12 billion naira. The good aspect of it over the last 2 years, since the assumption of office of the Senator Obasani administration, is to say there had been more regular funding of the pension bureau towards offsetting these liabilities.
That is to funding in terms of giving
pension
some
benefits,
of the
exactly,
amount that are needed to offset this backlog of
yes. So
debts.
Within the new administration so far, over the last 2 years, I think we've been able to pay a little above 11 billion naira. And in line with that, that was what has brought down the liability to something in the region of 11 to 12 again now. And be that as it may, since my coming on board, we found that the state has been making monthly allocations for these pension benefits, which sometimes in the past it takes a little longer before the exercise for pension benefits are made. But under my own tenure, what I've been trying to do is to ensure that we do these payments more regularly, no matter how small the contributions or these pension benefits are provided, so that at least we offset the liabilities and reduce people on queue.
At the rate you are going now, when do you hope to exit this particular pile of problem?
Going by the total liabilities for the state, I think the good aspect of it is within 7 to 8 months, the state government can be able to fully pay all those that are on queue so that they can access their benefits. As far as the local governments are concerned, that's a little more challenging.
Because the local government funds are usually held by the state government.
No, under the new law, the funds for local governments are provided directly to them.
But are they actually done so?
Yes.
I mean, because we've had all this to-in and fro-in after the Supreme Court judgment, it hasn't yet happened.
In Kaduna State, to my own information and knowledge, it has been implemented.
That Kaduna State local governments get their funds directly now.
So the major challenge because we have what we call a joint allocation committee meeting with the local governments so that we ensure that these fundings are made regularly. We've looked at the liabilities and the frequency of provision of those allocations. The challenge is the funds go to the local governments, and the Ministry for Local Government provides them with a schedule to say, these are the expected liabilities which you should fund to the local government pension account, but not all the local governments do that. And that is where
they can ignore the law and
so far they've been able to do as they wish. But having brought that to the knowledge of the state executive, I think the law is going to be in such a way that they must comply. Otherwise, they will not get these fundings directly from source.
What about the fact that a lot of pensioners complain that the amount they get is so meager? It's not indexed on inflation. You have people now, there are people who collect as low as 5,000, 15,000, and maybe 30,000, which is not enough to buy groceries for a week.
So like I said, the Kaduna State Bureau manages 2 sets of retirees, those under the old defined benefit scheme. And under that law, at least in the last 4 years or so, the state has enhanced the pension benefits of its retirees to a minimum of 30,000 under the last administration.
So there are still people collecting as low as 30,000.
That's the minimum.
Per month.
Yes.
But and what's the highest?
It's subject to your grade level and step at retirement.
Yes.
Under the first schedule.
Like if you retired as a permanent secretary, how much will it be?
It's not definitive because it's subject to how long you served, at what capacity, and how much was your take home in terms of salary.
Is there anyone earning up to 200,000 naira?
Yes, definitely.
But
we have retired PAMSECs, we have retired heads of service. I believe their pensions are well over that.
But still, for people at that level, that is almost chicken change.
So the issue of obligation to the employer is to say, at engagement, I promised you that should you work for me for a certain period of time, based on your last salary and your grade level and step and your years of service, I'm going to provide you something like 200% of your gratuity or 300% as pension. So that agreement is being upheld. But like I agree with you, there should be room for improvement if possible.
Especially with the current inflation, where by 100,000 maybe can barely buy you a bag of rice, maybe some salt, and nothing more.
But the good part of it is the consistency of saying at least those funds are being paid as and when due.
Even if they are starvation level kind of amount.
Under the contributory pension scheme, even at the federal level, we have people collecting as low as 30,000, 40,000. And that is where the pension enhancement issue is being looked into by the National Pension Commission.
Where will the funds for the enhancement come? Because you've already retired, you are no more contributing.
There are good investment returns for the funds for each contributor. And so far, what the regulator has tried to do is to look at the investment return and see if there is enough room to improve on the existing pension for the person. I think the last one done was in June this year. And you have people getting as much as 20-30% increment on their existing pension. So it's something that is on a regular basis, especially looking at the good investment return over the last few years that these funds have generated.
I'm a pensioner, and I know that my pension increased by maybe about 5,000 naira. And even the full pension maybe is no more than filling one tank in a car and then a little extra change. Why is this pension so meager?
So I think it's from the beginning. Under the contributory pension scheme, what you contribute is subject to a percentage of your salary. So if your salary is small, it means what you will be contributing eventually will also be small. The average contribution should be 8% of the employee's salary and 10% equivalent from his employer.
So is this cast in stone, or isn't there the possibility of enhancing it, because
that's
with
the
all
minimum
the complaints about the meager amount,
that's the minimum
higher?
That's the minimum allowed by law, but employers can do more if they wish.
What's the maximum?
Maximum is subject to the capacity of the employer.
So you can do 50%.
You can do 50. You can even take, in fact, there's a provision where if the employer chooses not to challenge his employees to pay, he can take up the full liability of either 18% minimum or even more on his own. But like we've always said, the funding from the employer there are challenges in terms of having
problems.
Exactly.
A lot of the employers are not
can barely. In
paying.
fact, they have huge challenges in terms of budgetary capacity to meet up to obligations. So sometimes you have to really fight between what should I do? Is it the social services projects for the society do I need to, or take care of employees who constitute just about 5 or 10% of the total population.
And especially pensioners who are no more working. So maybe if you are not that morally committed,
exactly,
you will think
exactly. But the good aspect of it, like I said, is the consistency of funding. Under the contributory pension scheme, which this year, 2025, I think we have gone about 18 years since the first set of pensioners have been paid. There has not been one day of default in terms of payment of pension.
As for the contributory
pension
scheme.
Yes.
I want us to get to the other pension, the defined one that has been very problematic, which tends to lead to seeing in the past soldiers retired soldiers camped in
queue,
Abuja
yeah.
on the street.
Yeah.
And more recently, we have had some retired policemen
Advocating
also on the
for it.
street advocating for something better than what they are getting.
Yeah.
So, but for now, I will want us to go on a short break and resume the conversation thereafter. Welcome back. It is still 30 minutes, the interactive program of Trust Television, and our guest today is the Chief Executive Officer of Kaduna State Pension Bureau, Malam Ibrahim Balarabe. Before we went on break, I have started hinting on this big problem that has been there. In some ways, it is less now, while in the past, maybe a decade ago, lots of retired soldiers couldn't get paid and they are camping on the street, poor sanitary hygiene and what have you, and a big embarrassment on the country indeed.
Yeah.
But more recently, that has been solved, the one of the soldiers, it looks like. But we now have policemen who have also been on the streets just maybe a couple of weeks earlier, and they are complaining that the contributory pension is not good for them. They want to be like the soldiers and the other armed forces that have been excused out of it because they want bigger amounts to go to them. They are complaining how come a chief superintendent of police is taking 30,000 per month, and at the end of 35 years, he only got maybe 2 million as a lump sum. Why is this still so?
So like I said, the first challenge is the actual take home in terms of salary for these policemen. As long as your salary is not significant, your contribution into the scheme will also be insignificant. Let's cite an example. If a sergeant collects something like maybe 100,000 naira per month as salary, what he can contribute by law is 8% of his salary, which should be 8,000 naira, and his employer is expected, which is the federal government, to contribute a minimum of 10%, which is 10,000 naira. So you get, yes, you get a policeman contributing on a monthly basis something like maybe 18,000 naira as pension contribution. And if you look at that for a whole year, that would be something like 230,000, 220,000 naira per annum. In a matter of 10 years, times 10 of that, that will be just 2 point something. Take in 20 years, 4 point something million. Take investment return.
In fact, that is even assuming this money is regularly remitted.
Yes. So with that, maybe even with the investment return, say you've doubled it. So you find somebody contributing in a total, maybe something like 10 million naira at the end of the day. And what by law is allowed is maybe a maximum of 25%, minimum of 25% of that amount as lump sum. So 2.5 million. And then based on the balance of about 7 point something million, maybe something like 80,000 or so as. And we're not talking of the least contributor there. We're talking of somebody within the middle cadre. Yes. So people could be lower than that in terms. So the right thing to do, if possible, is first to increase the salaries of these police officers such that their contribution by implication as well will be maybe better. If you can double that, then before you know, the average policeman can retire with 4, 5, 6 million naira as his lump sum, and will be collecting maybe twice or three times 130, 150,000 as pension. But that is one, increasing the salary. The second one is, can the employer, or by law, can we change the average contribution amount? Rather than 18, can we do something higher that will also enhance the pension payment? And then maybe as an exception, because some employers do that, why not a gratuity scheme, which is outside this whole pension scheme, whereby at retirement, a lump sum of money is given to you in appreciation for your services.
And there are lots of pensioners who are taking exception to the lump sum. They said, why are the pension administrators being more Catholic than the Pope, so to say? Why don't they give me my money so that I go and apply it to the best way? That they now only give me this amount and then they are giving me the smaller one every month. That is my money. That's what I've often heard them argue. It's my money, give it to me, let me go and do what I want with it.
Well, Manir, I've worked in the pension industry for 17 years before I retired in 2023. And within that time frame, I've seen retirees, I think for a span of about 14 years. Every retiree is the same.
They don't know how to manage money.
The minute his pension benefits are due, it's like he's been injected. He loses focus. All he wants is to access the money. He's made a budget, be it rational or irrational, of just wanting to spend based on his desires.
Yeah, well, he feels that he has earned it. He has spent all these years working, so give him the
these
chance.
funds are exhaustible. Within a span of 2 years or less, you find these same retirees. As an example, your benefits is paid, a gratuity or lump sum of amount is given to you, and your monthly pension is commenced. And the balance, which is a far more chunkier amount, is kept aside to be able to regularly pay you pension. Within 2 years, the monies that they have collected is finished.
And the business maybe they have started has collapsed. Because they didn't know how to run businesses.
Or somebody who wants to build a house, before he gets to the lintel level, the funds are finished. All he wants is to run back to the pension fund administrator. That same money that is guaranteeing him regular monthly pension is what he still wants to access. So if he does that, how does he feed at the end of the day? How does he buy his medications? How does he take care of other liabilities for the family? So the truth is, you can rise to the level of a professor in your field. And I assure you, every worker that had worked for that length of time is a professor in his field, but not in financial management. And the first obligation on the government is to take care of its elder citizens. Should the pension law be allowed to give pensioners their funds, within a span of 2-3 years, all 90% of them will be on the road trying to survive on alms from the Good Samaritans.
But so the government wants to be nannying people. It's like the nanny state.
It's the responsibility of the government to do that to its citizens.
But what if the individuals say they want something different? Can't people have that option? So even if they fail, it's their own responsibility.
So the Pension Reform Act is a law of the Federal Republic, and it is within that law that these stipulations are put in. If the National Assembly, and by implication the population, choose to push the law into that direction and it is approved, then that can also come in force. There had been regular reviews.
But rationally, you think it shouldn't?
I don't think
it is better to maintain the current system.
It's not in the interest of, because at that age, the expertise, even if you were an investment expert at a younger age, over 60, I believe your capacity to invest wisely, you will not be at your best. And you lack, some even lack the basic health to even pursue and ensure good investment return for their investments. So chances are your capacity to provide for yourself, no matter how much is given to you, is less than 10%. So the safety is, the good thing is these pension administrators are professionals, they are privately owned, so they have this expertise of investment return, and the employees and the retiree is given the option to change his PFA if he feels his pension administrator is not giving him the best in terms of services that he wants.
So on this kind of change, if you want to change, you can change it even midstream. When you are even collecting the pension, you can decide to change.
Yes, you can do it once every year. You choose to move from one administrator to the other, but otherwise you can stay where you want. But you can also have the option of moving. So we have 19 pension fund administrators.
And what about the trillions? Because I hear now
over 23 trillion.
Up to 23 trillion. That is about twice the budget of Nigeria.
Exactly.
That is what is under administration now as pension.
Yes.
And you don't foresee a problem, especially this aspect about inflation, because you are not giving people living pension, but starvation pension. Most people's pension maybe can last a week at the best.
So the truth is the funds are available, but the investment outlets are getting limited because of the large funds. But one of the responsibilities of the National Pension Commission is to ensure that they provide investment guidelines and regulations such that these funds are safe and continue to provide good returns for pensioners and employees while working, such that at retirement they can get their benefits.
What about all this, the armed forces that are exiting? Isn't that weakening the system because they prefer the defined kind of arrangement?
So for the military, I think it's understandable to a large extent. Their unique way of life maybe calls for that. A new recruit from the Nigerian army at 20 years can come into the field and within a span of a few months go into battle and lose his
limb
or life. And if you look at the contributory aspect of what he has, if he were in the contributory pension scheme, within that span of time he may not have contributed anything significant to take care of himself if it is incapacitation, or to give succor to his family in the case of death.
But if that's the case, why shouldn't it apply to the police? They are in almost the same kind of...
So the number in terms of the security forces is not as much as the policemen. And the more under the contributory pension scheme, it's a give and take situation you have. So
thank you very much. I'm afraid we ran out of time just when the conversation is getting more interesting. Thank you very much for coming.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Viewers, that's the end of this edition of 30 Minutes. Keep a date with us.